Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first No More Mondays of 2026. I hope you are all as excited to see the wood snake go bye-bye and the fire horse arrive. It is a new year, and I'm very, very excited to kick it off with an awesome guest here on the podcast where we explore the human side of modern work to make sure that you can design the career, the business, and most importantly, the life that you love. And I am your host, Angie Callen. Today's episode is brought to you by my book, Scary Good, Discovering Life Beyond the Sunday Scaries, which is officially out in the world on Thursday. It will be available wherever books are sold. If you really love me, you can go to your local bookstore and ask them to order it because that means a ton. But if you are craving more meaning, more momentum, and just a little bit more you in this new and momentum-filled year that we have, you can check it out at scarygoodread.com. Now, on with the show. Today, I am talking to Earl Hoeg, the founder of PeopleFirst, a company that helps leaders do what so many talk about, but few actually practice: put their people first. Now, as a former engineer who intensely loves humans and believes that humans still matter, you got to know why I'm so excited for this to be the first episode of 2026. Earl spent over 30 years in the Canadian federal government, which also means all of you should automatically like him because we love Canucks around here. He has led teams big and small, and now he uses all of that leadership experience along with some really effective tools we might talk about to help teams create workplaces where humans thrive. Because remember, humans still matter, people first. He's also a founding member of the Future of Work Alliance, which, as you know, is basically the heartbeat of what we're talking about here on No More Mondays. So synergies abound. Earl believes that better work starts with better relationships, and he's here to understand how we build those. It's all music to my ear. Earl, welcome to No More Mondays.
Thank you so much, Angie. It's a pleasure to be here.
So when I first met Earl and saw he had a company called PeopleFirst, I was like, well, we've got stuff to talk about. Then I found out it's about future of work too. And I was like, holy cow, we have even so many more things to talk about. And, as I mentioned, we share this belief that people really are the foundation and the secret sauce that is successful business. But I also think it's when a lot of things break. And I would love to just start with a little bit more context and some of your insight on your experience putting people first and why it's so important.
Well, thanks so much, Angie. I think I'll start by saying, I didn't start out with this idea that we need to put people first. I started out with, it's about results. We got to deliver results. We got to get stuff done. And I think it was really early on in my career that a mentor of mine kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, Earl, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Like that quote, I just love that. I keep coming back to that. Peter Finley was my mentor, and he had a way of just kind of resetting me, getting me back to really, focus on what really matters, and it's the relationships that make those results possible. So yeah,
I love that. Even that many years ago, when we have to admit that this idea of people first, humans still matter, and really intentional cultures was unheard of almost, I would say, until the last maybe 10, 15, close to 20 years, as various factors have started changing things. And so I love that you actually had a mentor who was aware of that early on, and you really got to build your career on that foundation.
Yeah, and I think I made lots of mistakes along the way, and it was really, I started really as a practitioner of leadership. It was practice in public. It was on the firing line, with apologies go out to the early teams that I led, where I made most of my mistakes. Hopefully the teams later on got to receive some of the dividends from that. But yeah, it was. I think that it really is. I mean, people are at the heart of our organization. We talk about it maybe in platitudes that we got to take care of our people and they'll take care of the files, but it really does. It comes down to that. It comes down to the connections at work. It comes down to our relationships. That really is how results are delivered.
Well, and you queued up a really, I want to talk about two sides of a coin that you kind of just brought up. And that is the fact that people will say people are the foundation of our organization. We've got to put our people first, but saying that and actually doing it with intention are two different things. And so on one side of the coin, I would love for you to talk about some of the maybe the warning signs or things that can indicate that maybe culture's off track or you do need to be more intentional about putting people first. So what are some indicators we as leaders can be looking for that tell us we might need to be more active in this?
Well, there's all kinds of, engagement stats out there. There's all kinds of, listening that you can do. But I think it's really about, talking to your team and really, figuring out, well, what is the pulse of what their experience is in your organization. And I think it's going to be very different across an organization. You're going to have different
Mhm.
parts of the organization where things are going, really well, and it's important to understand what is going well there and being able to reward those managers paying attention to the good things that they are doing. And it starts with individuals. It starts with the leaders. The impact of the managers have on the organization. What is it? 70% of the impact of the culture is really attributed to the manager.
Oh, literally, in case you heard me typing, I was like, I want to remember to ask Earl this question, which you basically just posed for yourself. Here in the US, I don't know about Canada, you can kind of fill us in. There's a statistic that in exit surveys, over half of departing employees cite the manager for their reason for leaving. And I'm curious what you've seen in your perspective on that, and if it actually is as prevalent of a reason as we like to make it out to be.
Well, I think I'll just point to the Gallup, research in terms of the impact that managers have on the experience for employees, and it is like 70% of their experience at work is as a result of the quality of their leadership. And there's such a multiplier effect that organizations can have by investing in management and leadership development, by helping them get better. They can help the organization deliver and results and output. So it really is about investing in the leadership team.
So I'm curious, I love leadership development. I've loved leadership since I was a teenager, or at least that was when I became aware of how much I love leadership. I am observing, and I'm curious to hear your take on this because you're even more on the front lines of this than I am at a much higher scale. I'm observing almost a greater need, and I'm hoping what is becoming a larger demand for leadership training and upskilling, because it seems as if younger generations who are coming into opportunities to lead lack some of the leadership human skills to do so, and they need to kind of close that gap. And then there's also, even regardless of age, it feels like a lot of companies don't have that intentional training to take people from individual contributor into management and leadership, because it's two very, very drastically different functions, and most people don't have the natural skills to do it. It seems to me that there's more awareness, need, and demand for that upskilling, and that's only trending forward. I'm curious what you're seeing on that front.
Yeah, I think it's getting there. I think there's still a lot more that can be done.
Mhm.
I think that a lot of people, they get promoted because they were the best individual contributor. They're not getting promoted because they actually, to use Marcus Buckingham's words, like they don't get their kicks from delivering results through others, right? Like it's almost,
Yeah.
you almost need to, use that as one of your measures when you're moving into a leadership role, even to think about it for yourself, that
Yes.
why are you moving into this role? Not just for more money or for the position, but do you really want to be responsible for delivering results through others? Like, is that how you get your kicks? Is that what motivates you? And I don't think that question is asked very often on interviews.
And I don't think people want to answer it honestly, because we have a kind of a workforce issue where that's the only way to grow. Now, I do think there are companies getting kind of hip to the fact that there are people who want to grow in technical skill or want to grow in ways that aren't the traditional get a higher title, manage more responsibility, make more money, rungs of the ladder. But until that becomes the norm, we're in this weird push-pull of like, well, I'm really great as an individual contributor, but the only way to get more money, or the only way to, feel like I'm moving up, is to make this leadership jump. And so I'm curious, let's talk to some of those people, because, by the way, as a former engineer who loves people, none of those people knew what to do with me. And so, I'm this like super extroverted, work really fast, get shit done engineer that these, people that are just learning how to manage and not being trained to do so are like, what the heck do we do with you? So I would love to hear some of your tips for people out there that are maybe in that in between phase, or they are now stepping into leadership from individual contributor, and they need to kind of take the reins and learn and upskill themselves. What are some really great tips you have for people in that category?
So, I mean, I think I'll point to, in terms of a framework that I love around leadership. It was one that was introduced to me when I was doing my MBA, and it's transformational leadership is the term that's used, but it's also the theory that's behind it. It's not the generic term transformational leadership that you might think of. It's actually the research by, I think it's Bass, Burns, and Avolio. And it's this idea that transformational leadership, one of the pillars of it is individualized consideration. And that's the one that I think, any leader, it's really, everybody is different, and trying to understand who is working with you, what are their strengths, what are their contributions, what are their motivations. And, it starts with asking, it starts with getting that information. It starts, I have one question as a leader that I would use when I would meet new members of my team. These would be kind of, skip levels that I hadn't met. And it was just, who is Angie? And then just listen for the answer, and, let people take that question wherever they want to. So get to know the members of your team, that individualized consideration. I think you need to become a student of leadership. You have to realize that you're now in a different role, and if you want to deliver results through others, you need to figure out, how do people tick. And so digging into leadership theory, that was only one element of the individualized consideration is only one element of that transformational leadership model. But digging into models like that, increasing your own self-awareness, it's the old oxygen mask, cliche. You got to take care of yourself first. Well, you need to know a little bit about yourself. You need to know your own strengths and weaknesses. And so digging into some tools that will help you understand who you are, how you show up, what comes most easily to you, and then realizing and appreciating, well, not everyone is like me, and that's a good thing. And how can I better adapt my style to connect with them, to help them achieve results?
I almost feel like the individual consideration is huge. And when I coach leaders who are like starting a new role, for instance, one of the first things I tell them is your first several weeks, depending on how large your team is only about getting to know them. So who are they? What motivates them? And what are their goals? And mean it is probably, but seeing them as humans. And I love the point that you bring up about needing to be a self-aware leader yourself. It's almost as if you need to put your own individual consideration first, so that you can then go relate to these individuals that you're trying to get to know and motivate on a human and individualized level. Yeah. And I love that you brought up the awareness thing, because one of your frameworks is the awareness to alignment to achievement. And I love this because it ties straight into what we just talked about. But I also think one of the reasons as leaders we don't take the time and attention to individual awareness is because we are pushed straight to goals and performance and the corporate madness without ever stopping and asking what we value, what you value, and whether we're all building it. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that kind of journey of awareness to alignment and achievement, and how it plays into this whole conversation about being more intentional about people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll use the Stephen Covey metaphor here, right? You got to sharpen the saw, right? You can't just go to results, and if you're not taking taking the time to get to know your team, understand yourself. Like, you kind of have to go slow to go fast. And taking that time, making that investment in those relationships is going to pay dividends down the road. And so, awareness really is, again, it's, as I said, it's understanding yourself, like who you are, what comes most easily to you. That's the key piece. Understanding the strengths and the differences of others, and appreciating that they're going to see things differently than you do. As a leader, I'll just use the differences around introversion and extroversion. For me, as a leader who has a preference for extroversion, realizing that what I was doing as a leader in my all staff meetings, where I would, call on one of my best contributors, and I would, say, so what do you think? And it was the worst thing I could have done. She led with introversion. She was sitting there quietly minding her own business, doing like the reflective thinking, the good, like the reason why she was one of my best contributors. She always had the most reflectful, thoughts and comments. And here I was, putting her on the spot in an all staff meeting. And so just those simple things of understanding, like I say, the differences between, yourself and others, and realizing that it's about treating others the way they want to be treated, not the way we want to be treated. And so, it is a journey, and it starts with, our own self-awareness, and then understanding and appreciating the differences of others.
Yeah. So the awareness, alignment, achievement, here's how I'll distill down and kind of like almost create a pillar based on what you just said. We have to have our own self-awareness to know our strengths, but also our weaknesses, and be okay with that. Because sometimes as a leader, you need to say, I'm not good at this, so I'm going to fill it with someone else and kind of empower them. But you have to then take that awareness and align it with others. And so, don't call on a person in the room in exactly the opposite way which they will feel and engage. And all of that really creates it's a gel, right? That everybody kind of gels. And now you're primed to perform. And you said something at the beginning of this part of the conversation where like, you don't just go, which made me think about like a track and field athlete for some reason. You don't go to the Olympics and win a gold medal in a 100-yard dash right off the bat with no preparation, without understanding how you need to train yourself and who you need on your team to train you up and all of those kinds of things. And in a way, a really well-oiled machine is no different, from a team and a company, right? It takes time and intention. And that starts with us individually as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it starts with those individual relationships. It starts with, increasing, connection at work, because if we can increase connection, that increase trust. We know that when trust is high, stress is lower, energy is higher, and that produces results. So I think in your example there, I think, trust is really the oil in the engine of an organization that drives results.
Yeah. And that, to go back to the 70% of management impacting culture and the, 50% of people reportedly leaving because of management. If we dig even deeper, I know most of that points back to that little 5-letter word, trust. And I'm going to cue you up for a shameless plug, because you just mentioned how to build connection at work. And I know that you have something coming up focused on that. So tell everybody.
Yeah, I might have a little TEDx talk coming up in a couple weeks' time. I'm pretty excited. So this is I've had as a goal since I set out on my entrepreneurial journey after my 33-year career in public service, to do a TEDx talk. And so in a couple weeks' time, on the TEDx UNB, University of New Brunswick, in cold Fredericton, New Brunswick. It'll be pretty chilly here in January 15th, but I'm looking forward to it. It's
awesome.
It's all about how to thrive in the new world of work
There you go.
is the talk, and it's all about connection. It's a practice, not an event. It's something that we have to keep doing. We have to keep investing in. We have to be intentional about it. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I love what you just said about how it's a practice, not an event. So side note, we will make sure that we have links and everything to the TED Talk. I will try to tune in live if I can, but we'll be sure to link to it because like you said, I think it's not just a thing that's going to be evergreen. It's the start to a conversation. And there was something that you said that I love is this isn't just an event, it's the beginning of a practice. And so I'm curious to maybe like give everybody some tidbits out there on what can a leader do to start kind of making these shifts, better align their team, or maybe even just fundamentally start thinking about their leadership journey as a practice that requires continual attention and not just a thing I do. What are some good tips?
So, I mean, the first one that I share in the talk is that practice of who is, right? So at one point in my career, I had 300 people reporting through my organization. There was no way that I could get to know everyone individually. But when I would go to a new location, I would just try to meet with 10 new people. And I just had that one question. And it really was like, who is? And when I would get quiet, when I would tame my extroverted, need to talk, and I would just listen, that's when connection would happen. And, I had a young, clerk at one of our locations send me in my retirement card, like a thank you, that I was the first senior leader that had ever, gotten to know him. And, like I thought these 15 minutes were pretty superficial, that it was just, because I had to kind of cram them into a full day of being at a new location. But that mattered to him, and that like made such a difference. Like I was like, so, it doesn't have to be big things. It can be, something as simple as, just taking the time to get to know someone. If you're, you want to go a little bit deeper, it's digging into learning something human and helping your team learn something human about their colleagues. So when another practice was just a fun fact, right? So the most interesting or the most boring thing about Angie, right? Like, what do we need to know that we're not gonna learn about you from your LinkedIn or your CV? And the research shows that when we know something about another human and we see them as a human, we are, yeah, I know, we're so much more ready to approach them with our half-baked idea. And so it's not just the right thing to do, it delivers results. So it's about, just these little things, creating, user guides to your colleagues, helping understand, okay, what does Angie need to bring her best self to life and to work, and then incorporating those things in the everyday. So
I still remember in my early days of really career specific coaching, I had a technology leader, a software engineering leader, who landed a new role and had to write his README, which at this time I didn't know what this was, but he asked for my help and I needed him to explain it. And it is essentially hey, here's what I, as your leader, want you to read about me before I start. And it was basically a little bit of a philosophy and a get to know you 2 or 3 page document that he gave to his employers for the team to read and review before he ever even stepped foot onto the team. And it was essentially exactly what you just described, was this way for them to get a little look into who was coming in to lead them, to kind of build trust right off the bat. And then that would create this nice foundation to reciprocate it. And so, when we talk about what can you do, this is really, really simple, y'all. Just be a human who authentically wants to get to know another human, and you'd be surprised what results come from that.
Yeah.
It
doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah.
And you don't have to be, it's funny. You brought up the extrovert introvert thing. I feel like introverts sometimes feel like they wish they were extroverts, but guess what? There are strengths and weaknesses on both sides, because just as hard as it is for some of you to speak up in a room, it is just as equally as hard for Earl and I to shut the heck up. Yeah. So it is important to know and give voice equally. I want to talk a little bit about the future of work. I want to bring that into this picture, because I am curious, as somebody who works at a similar intersection of leadership and future of work, what do you think are our biggest opportunities in how we lead and work right now?
So before I can't let this opportunity go before you move off the introvert extrovert thing. No.
Okay.
So, if anyone needs to, if there's anyone in their life where they need to dispel this myth that there's that it's better to be an extrovert than an introvert, then you need to give them the book by Susan Cain. I mean, after they give them your book, of course, but after, the book by Susan Cain on quiet, called Quiet. It's
Oh, yes.
the power of introversion in a world that won't stop talking.
Yes.
I sometimes drop in an F-bomb there, a world that won't shut the
Oh,
bleep.
no, you can do that on this show.
But it is, for me as a leader, that was the best business book that helped me realize that I was putting some of my individual contributors, on the spot, that I wasn't allowing them to bring their best selves to the job. So sorry, Angie, I couldn't.
Oh no, to me, that is, I also just kept on going and should have given you an opportunity to interject there, because I have never read that book, and I'm glad you reminded me that I need to, because even though I am not one of those introverts, I am one of the people who can't stop talking. And so you can learn from something in how the opposite is kind of being taught. And to me, that leads right into the question of, like, what are our opportunities, right? I actually think, and you set it up so perfectly, is that being more human is one of our opportunities that we have in leadership and work right now.
It absolutely is. I mean, we look at the World Economic, their World Economic Forum's latest report on what are the skills that are going to be required in whatever it is, 2030, 2034. And they're pointing to, like, a lot of technical skills, a lot of, creative and analytical skills, creative thinking and analytical skills, but they also highlight the importance of relationship management skills, empathy, social influence, leadership, like those skills that we as practitioners often refer to as power skills. Like those skills are still going to be in demand. So if you want to identify an area where AI is not predicted to beat you, if you want to have a competitive advantage in the future, investing in your human skills, your skills, right? The focus on those areas where AI isn't going to beat us. That's how you're going to set yourself apart, is in how to build those connections, how to build those relationships, how to be a human in an AI world.
I love that you just said human skills. That's what I call them. And you and I are going to make that the norm across all of the workforce now, because I wish that no one would have ever called them soft skills, because to me, soft skills versus hard skills automatically created a hierarchy there of one is better than the other. They're just a different bucket. And then they were power skills for a little while. That didn't stick for a super long time, but I do agree that that's what they were. And now they really are human skills, because they are the thing that nothing else can take from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize that it wasn't even intentional. Power skills is still the word that I'm using for it. So
okay, well, now you're going to use human skills, and I'm forcing you to do it.
I'm giving you credit. It's all your credit. You can trademark it. I just say, as Angie taught me, it's those are human skills. Yeah.
I'll go. I bet I can't trademark that one, but I'll try.
You can try.
But it's true, and I think this is where our there's many opportunities in how we lead and work right now, I think, but the way I'll put it, and what is a human skill? To me, it is being an AI-enabled human on purpose, which means you're a purposeful human using an AI thoughtfully while keeping your human skills at the center of how you wield it. And all of that's how you're going to differentiate yourself.
Absolutely. I think this is probably, another term that I don't think I've heard you use this one, at least not on today's cast, but I think when I think about AI, it's about, augmented intelligence, not artificial intelligence, right? So it is, how can we augment what we know? I like the work by Ethan Mullick, and, his reference to needing to be the human in the loop all the time on this. I really do. I really think that AI is a powerful tool, but it's not going to replace us. It's going to give us access to a new solution that is damn advanced, but I still think we're in the driver's seat on this. So
we opened the can of worms, so I'm going to go there. The AI, I love the idea of it's augmented and not artificial, because ultimately we still have to drive it, train it, and tell it what it what we want it to do for us and how we want it to augment our work. And what's really interesting about this, I was talking to somebody yesterday who had a really good point, is that like, in a way, artificial intelligence is only as intelligent as the person using it to augment, right? And so it is our human skills, our creativity on how and where we can bring those things into our ecosystem that really does enable us to be really purposeful at another level, because now IQ is taken care of. We get to go off the charts with EQ.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're so right. Like I'm still amazed that more people are not leveraging it beyond using it as a search engine or as Google. Like the power of AI really, as you say, it gets more powerful in the hands of people who know how to use it right and how to really get meaning out of the information that's coming from it. So like the number of times that I've been using AI and it just gives me crap because it's like, okay, well, I know enough around that going, okay, well, no, this isn't right. And then you kind of nudge it and ask it for something. Oh yes, you're right. I messed up. It's like, well, yeah, I know I'm right. But if you still have to have that area of expertise and in order to be able to kind of sharpen your skills in that area. So
I really struggle because the former engineer in me who loves people loves a good how can I augment, and I have maybe been down some agentic AI rabbit holes recently, and then I see a report on what it does to the environment and everything about my human dies a little bit. So at some point we will find the elusive word balance that I don't generally like to throw out there, but I think there's the overarching theme here is this idea of like being an intentional human, relating to other humans, and so many things fall into place if you do.
I love that. Like it is about intention. It's about, getting off of autopilot. It's about, being purposeful. It's genuinely caring. It goes back to, that quote that my mentor shared, right? People, they don't care how much you know, until they know how much you care. And
one of my favorite quotes I'll meet that with, and I put this in most of my talks, is Maya Angelou. People will not remember what you did. They won't remember what you said, but they will remember how you feel.
See, I wish my mentor had shared that quote with me. I like that one a little more too, but it's not my story. That's not my story.
It's not really my story either. It's just one I like. There you go. Own it.
Mine is the Theodore Roosevelt quote, but yeah, I like that one, and it really is. That's what it boils down to, right? Have we given the opportunity of another human to be seen, to be heard, and understood, right? If we can give that gift to our colleagues, to the team, to the people that we're leading, that's going to make the difference. And we'll figure out the AI stuff and everything else and the impact on the environment, and we'll sort all that out. But
it'll work itself out in the wash, I hope.
Let's take care of each other.
As it turns out, humans really do and can still matter. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I tell you what, for most of you who listen, you know that like I could just have Earl here and we could sound off on various points of this conversation all day. But what I want to remind you all is that ultimately, from my perspective, work should feel good, not just look good. And if you maximize your human skills, you're going to have that kind of experience, and you're not going to have to choose between results and relationships as a leader. All you've got to do is put people first. It really is that easy. So Earl, if everybody out there wants some help putting people first, where do they find you? TED Talk. I know you got some other cool stuff going on in 2026. How do we follow along with you and all this good stuff that you've got to put out in the world?
Yeah, well, LinkedIn is kind of where I live and breathe. That's probably my most active social media. It's my only social media. I have no social media. So LinkedIn.
You're better for it.
Yeah, LinkedIn is there. Absolutely our PeopleFirst website. We're doing a big rebrand. So that should be done in early 2026. But peoplefirst.ca, pretty easy to remember. And my big, hairy, audacious goal for 2026 is to be Canada's most impactful insights discovery distributor. And so we're looking to get a lot of news out about that and really advance that. And we've got a really cool initiative around the gift of discovery. So if there's any, students out there that are, we're looking to help the helpers is our mission. So we're giving away free insights discovery profiles to help people understand themselves. And that's being done by the Insights Foundation and the PeopleFirst Peeps team from across the country. We're donating our time. So lots of exciting stuff coming up in 2026.
So many good ways to put people first.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right. So I'm going to ask you one more loaded question before we wrap up, or as we wrap up. What does the future of work look like to you?
It looks a lot like people. It looks like a place where people feel like they belong, and we're putting people first, and the results and everything else will follow.
I love it. The future of work looks human.
Yeah.
Couldn't be a better way to wrap up this conversation. Earl, thank you so much for being part of No More Mondays and bringing us your wisdom, your warmth and extroversion, and most importantly, a people first philosophy that I definitely share and want more people to hear. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This has been a fantastic conversation to kick off what is about to be an amazing 2026. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow along, leave us a rating, and tune in next week for another episode of No More Mondays. And in the meantime, go head out on Thursday and grab your copy of Scary Good, Discovering Life Beyond the Sunday Scaries. I'll see you next week for another episode of No More Mondays.